Hello there, I'm Scotty, you're not, and before I begin, I just want to tell you the air conditioner is on because it's hot, okay? And if I did like I did the other day and turn it off, I think it's hotter than it was that day. So if I turn it off, I feel like I'm gonna get really warm and sweaty. So just you're gonna have to deal with it. I wish I had a mic to kind of amplify my voice, but sometimes I think that, and sometimes I go, I see the problem other people have. Like I've watched so many of Sinister Cinema's, Jason's videos on Sinister Cinema, and he's had so many problems with microphones. Just he itches and it'll move the wrong way, and he can't hear something. I just like it's worth it to get a microphone. How would that work with just the phone? The whole thing. So, um, yes, Scream 7. Oh boy, oh boy. I get to talk about Scream 7. This felt like it took forever to get to the streaming service. But if you really look at it, not really. It came out February 28th, right? That is when it came out, right? February 27th. February 27th is when it came out. This would have been something to go watch in February for my birthday. Because but I don't have a theater. But February 27th, and I actually don't think that was a free weekend for me, so I don't know. I would have taken them with me. So this movie was plagued with controversy from the very beginning, almost the very beginning, because like after Scream 6 lit up the box office, they of course talked about a seventh film, right? To finish off this trilogy that we started. And then everything started to fall down. Melissa Barrera caught fire for, supporting Palestinians, or Palestine, whatever. She, what do you want to call them? Palestinian. She went off. What is it? She put out a text or something, a post on X or Twitter, what do you want to call it, in support of Palestine, which caused issues and got her fired by Spyglass Entertainment. And the very next day, I think, about the next day or so, Jenna Ortega revealed she wasn't coming back, with originally being told it was scheduling conflicts with Wednesday Season 2, which turned out to be total bullshit because they didn't start filming for a whole nother year after that was already out. So, and then later it's like, oh no, she did it to support her, and it's like, well, why couldn't you just say it to begin with? Why'd you have to say it was... So that was that. And then Christopher Landon, who was supposed to be the director of the film, dropped out. And, yeah. So now what? This thing was pretty much dead in the water, right? Well, where do you go to try to resuscitate it? You go back to the beginning. And you bring in Kevin Williamson to revitalize the franchise. Kinda does. We'll get to it. It didn't have issues, but not as many issues as other people did. We'll get to it. Yeah. So then Kevin Williamson's coming in. He didn't fully write it, but he did help write it with Guy Busick. And then it was reported that Neve Campbell was coming back to play Sidney Prescott, or Sidney Prescott Evans. It's confusing. So now, okay, we're going back to nostalgia. Okay, it was announced that Isabel May was going to play Sidney's teenage daughter, and everyone went, huh? And they try to write that where it makes sense, but still doesn't. But they try to write around the plot hole of her having a teenage daughter to begin with, seeing as the only child we saw was a baby in 5. So, but they do mention children in 6. I'll point that out. And yeah, then after a little lull, it was announced that Courtney Cox was coming back, and then other casting announcements that made people go, what? It was announced that Matthew Lillard was coming back. And we went, what? Huh? And then it was announced that Scott Foley was coming back. Okay. Stu is one thing. But that motherfucker dead. Okay, he got shot in the head. There's no coming back from that. And then, you know, because rumors started to swirl that, oh, it's some kind of AI plot. They're using AI, not really using AI, because the AI in this movie is too fucking good to be real AI. I don't know what this is supposed to be either. AI to implement these things, which is an interesting way to take it. But it was only a rumor. And then they announced David Arquette was coming back, which was supposed to be a surprise. He was not supposed to be announced, but he did it anyway. And I have a feeling none of them were supposed to be announced. But then they're like, oh, we have to announce Matthew Lillard. Which I felt took the wind out of the sails a little bit. Because it's like, well, if they announced him, he's not actually the killer. Because why would you announce that if he was the actual killer? And they play with that in this movie. They do. And then the Foley thing, and then Arquette. There was one surprise that shows up from that I was like, oh, okay. I sounded like Sydney in another movie. We'll get to it. Like, yeah. And the trailer was released. And it looked pretty good, to be honest. And then the discourse came. Because there are people out there who were in support of Marissa Barrera. And that's fine if you want to do that. But there are people taking it to the extreme, to the point where they were trying to find as much information about the movie they could and spoil everything for everyone else who just wanted to go enjoy the movie. To the point that I don't know if it's my comments or someone else's comments, that I commented something on one of their videos. It was a Scream related video, so it's not totally out of it. I don't remember what it was, but was it Wolfman Got Nard's video or something, or a post or something? And someone posted something that confused the hell out of me. Though I just sort of thought of when I was talking about it the reason why they would do this, but it confused me at the time, where they said something to the effect of, I will be seated in the theater to see that blank is the killer in something, something, something. And I went, well, if you're boycotting, what the hell are you going to the theater? And then it just hit me while I was in the middle of talking that, of course they would go to the theater, so that, like, maybe it's a preview screening or something. And they're going to go to the theater as soon as they get done. They're going to go online and they're going to throw all the spoilers. But to me, that doesn't sound like boycotting as much as you just want to be a dick. You know? And there's other people saying, be careful with comments on Scream videos, maybe even others. People, you know, Drum Dums. I have his video up, that's why I'm pointing. He got spoiled. And it seems like he and I are the only ones that actually liked this movie. Because when the movie came out, I didn't watch a lot of the reviews because I always wait. I know that's spoiler free, but I always want to wait because I don't want to know like anything really. And unfortunately, like, so I pretty much knew who the killers were in this, 2 of them at least, until one scene where I'm like, well, then there's got to be 3, because there's just, I don't know. But there was the one that was spoiled for me, where blank is the killer and blah, 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 blah. They issued character posters, and one of them, I looked at him and goes, well, he's one of the killers. And then there's a moment in the movie where they focus in on this one character at the beginning of the movie almost. And I go, well, then there's got to be 3 then. Because I was convinced that the other 2, I knew one, and I was convinced that the other person had to be it. So, yeah. So now that I waited all this time, what about the movie? Well, now that we're 10 minutes in, I'm surprised it took that was that short. So we actually start off in Woodsboro, and I kind of like the idea of like a killer bed and breakfast based around, Stu's house. So when I saw the trailer for this, I went, oh, they're retconning. This is before. I mean, they announced that Chad and them were coming in, but I'm just like, oh, are they retconning the last two? Because, like, I don't know. But there has been enough time. It's been 6 years. 22. 4 years. Excuse me. 4 years since Scream 5. I was going to call it Scream 5. So they could have done it. But it's not like a killer bed and breakfast. And I'm going to criticize something here. You name one character in your movie, Scott. Why the fuck is he the first one killed off? I that's my big qualm with this movie. You name one character in this movie, Scott, and he's the first fucker to get killed off. Pissed me off. But I do like this. There's the whole thing with like a animatronic ghost face that sometimes makes sense and then later it doesn't make any sense. We'll get to it. And then it's like the phone call. It's just scary movies. And I asked 3 questions. And one of the questions got me. So the questions were, who was the first one killed off in Nightmare on Elm Street? Tina Gray. The second question was about people under stairs, and I still haven't seen that yet. So I don't remember what the question was. The third one got me. The third question was, how old was Jason Voorhees when he drowned in Friday the 13th? Well, before Friday the 13th. And the guy, Scott, calculates it, and he's like, 11. And the guy, sorry, that's incorrect. And I'm like, no, because I said 10. I'm like, no, he's got to be right. And then the girl goes, it's a trick question. He didn't drown. I went, duh. Of course. And then he's like, that's right. Guess I don't get to stab you after all. But he technically got that wrong. But anyway, they're walking around. You're seeing the old house again. And then she goes back. She's like, oh, I saw something. That was before, I guess. But then she's in there, and she's messing with it. And because he liked the part where he takes the mask off and shows it's a like animatronic thing. It tracks the movement kind of thing. And then he puts it back on. She's in there. And she's like looking at it, and she hits it, and it sounds like the animatronic. But then when Scott comes back in, they're talking, and she's like, "It moved." He's like, "What?" She's like, "It moved. It moved wrong. It had a different movement." And then it turns out it's the real one. Then why did it sound like the animatronic when she hit it? A little too, But the rest of this is pretty fucking cool because it's like, oh, I did call something because when they're walking around, like I said, I thought that first of all I thought that they were retconning it, and then they point out where Stu died, where Billy died, where Stu died, and they're like, oh, Amber died over here, then Richie over here. I'm like, okay, so it's not retconning, it's still connected, which I kind of knew because the other two came back, but like I was like, I don't know, I just had to. It was a weird feeling. But the killer chases him around. Boyfriend dies like right there. Like I said, Scott's the first guy to die. Thank you very much, movie. Respect to the Scott. Okay? Wasn't that old Capri Sun commercial? Respect the Scott. Respect it. We'll blow you up or something. I don't know. Goes after her. But she does, I would want to point out, she goes in and they point out the stove that Amber gets fried on. And she's like, that's a bad way to die. I wouldn't want to die like that. And I'm like, well, you're getting set on fire. I said that. Sure enough. Like, they do the thing, because it's like you see in the trailer, she lands on the knife, right? You see that in the trailer. That's not how she dies, though. She's laying there, writhing in pain. And Ghostface starts setting fire to the house, and he pours gasolina, on her, lights her on fire. You don't see it, which I liked. It's far too many movies nowadays would just show it. Like this is Terrifier. They would show that fucker would show her getting burned to a crisp, which you don't. You just hear her scream, and then you cut to the burning corpse afterwards. You don't see the ignition or light, because honestly, that'd probably do too much CGI. But yeah. And then you get the title card, Scream 7. Honestly, a pretty good opening, but I will point out it has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the film. They do bring it up a couple of times, but other than that, absolutely nothing. And the question I want to know is, which one of the killers did this? My mind's on one, but they don't really bring it up again. The killer's done, but yes. So, now we go to Pine Grove, Indiana, where Sidney Prescott, now Sidney Evans, is married to police chief Mark Evans. Now here's the big Patrick Dempsey-sized elephant in the room. They tried to get him back, and he was busy. I don't know what he was busy with. A lot of they said it was scheduling conflicts, and a lot of people assumed, oh, he's going to be filming Thanksgiving 2, which hasn't come out yet. I don't think they even started filming yet. So all intents and purposes, he could have, if that was the issue. A lot of times, though, actors will be locked down to a production and can't participate. So if he's locked down to that, he has to be ready for whenever they can start shooting. Maybe he can't do anything else. I don't know. You gotta be doing something else at this point. And so they replaced him with Joel McHale and still named the guy Mark, which I still stand on the hill that it was always supposed to be Patrick Dempsey from the minute they mentioned him in Scream 5, because I have a lot of issues with the logic of their marriage, where I just keep thinking, she was married to this guy for all these years, she was with this guy. I just kept thinking that, right? She runs a coffee house and as children, and we only really see Tatum, though we briefly see that their other two kids are with their grandmother, obviously his mom, because obviously. But it's like, okay, yeah, we showed where they are, because we have to acknowledge she has younger children because we saw the stroller, and it can't be Tatum, obviously. So, yeah. On the subject of Tatum, but by the way, we have a callback, literally, but callbacks work in this franchise because there is a movie franchise within this franchise about this franchise. So the fact that her boyfriend comes to the window, does this when I was watching TV and stab movies were on, and he does the thing that Billy does. It's like, okay, it's meta. That's how it is. And Kevin Williamson said it wasn't going to be meta, but there is some meta elements, and I think they do work fine. I was kind of smiling. I was laughing. I was like, okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, her name is Tatum. And the one thing that confused me is how they were going to work out her age. So I'm like, I assumed she was around 16. And my original thought was, well, that doesn't make any sense because then Sidney would be pregnant during Scream 4. Of which I thought Scream 4 took place in 2010. Took place in 2011. So I'm like, okay, but if she's 16, that means she gave birth and wrote a book and went on tour. She gave birth and wrote a book and then went on tour, all close to the birth of her child. But then they point out that she's 17, right? And I'm like, okay, that means she was born in 2009. And the way they portray her as being protective of her family, you're telling me she would leave her 1-year-old child to go on a book tour to her old hometown. And then leave them again for Scream 5? Now, if you think of the way it was supposed to be in Scream 5, and it was Patrick Dempsey. I can't think of the character's name. Detective. I don't know his name. I can't think of it. I had it earlier, but I lost it. Of course, he'd be able to protect the kids or kid, the kid, whatever, while she goes to deal with that. But now that we're in this world and this is now canon, you gotta think, if she's that overprotective over her family in this movie, why did she leave them twice? Once to do a stupid book tour, and another one to just go help her friends. It makes sense that she didn't show up in 6 with the context of this movie. Something that they keep on harping on her for doing. Like, you weren't in the last one. You weren't in New York. What happened there? You should have been in New York. You should be glad you went in New York. And then by the end, she's like, you're right, I should have gone to New York. And I'm like, what is this? Why are they harping on her for not being in the last one? I don't know. I can see if it was still Radio Silence directing this, and they were like, they wrote it in there. I mean, it's still Guy Busick, he wrote the last one, but still. But no. And then we meet her friends. Well, we meet her boyfriend, whose name is... maybe that's an issue. I don't know names. His name is... Ben. His name is Ben. And immediately, and I know he snuck through her window, but she's like Sydney goes in there and she's like, how's the floor, Ben? And so like she figures it out because she's been through that before. And it's like she immediately distrusts Ben, especially once the murders start. She's like, stay the fuck away from my daughter. And I'm like, wasn't that the whole lesson of the second one? You couldn't trust your boyfriend and it got him killed. So why would you then teach your daughter to push away her boyfriend when it got your boyfriend killed? Because you were stupid. And it's like they forgot about the fact that she let go of all her trauma and just decided, oh, she's back on it again. Right? Like the ending to the third one now no longer works because she's got to keep on referring to her trauma. Right? Remember in the fifth one when she showed up, you have a gun? I'm Sidney fucking Prescott, of course I have a gun. And she showed up guns blazing in that one, but she didn't trauma dump. She had no trauma. But now they got to recreate that for this movie because, I don't know, that's the only thing that bugged me is they had to just bring the trauma back even though she shouldn't have any. She should be the heroine, which she does have that going for her, but, you know. Yeah. But yeah, then we see she runs. They really skip through this. She runs a coffee house, and we're introduced to Anna Camp's character, who I now know who she is thanks to Pitch Perfect, which you haven't seen me review yet, but I have reviewed them, all 3 of them, and they'll be on the channel in June. But they're done, and I know who she is now. But yeah, she runs a coffee house, and she puts out a coffee for a guy named Carl, and the camera focuses on this guy going. And I went, okay, so there has to be 3 killers then. Because the other 2 were way too obvious. And they can't just be red herrings. I know one of them is true. The other one can't just be a red herring. Carl. He's like a homeless guy or something, I don't know. And then Sydney gets her phone call. There's some sort of play that they make a big deal about that Tatum's in it because Sydney's like, well, I used to tell her, she has told her nothing of her past, other than what's in the movies. And I feel like perhaps she hasn't let her daughter watch the movies, because like when she mentioned theater, oh, you were in theater? Was that not in the second movie? Did they not put that in the second Stab film? I'm assuming she wouldn't let let her kids watch it, but she gets a phone call, and it starts out, "Hello, Sydney," and she just, she treats it, until she starts to threaten her daughter, and then a screen pops up, and it's Stu. And let me tell you something, Matthew Lillard is loving every minute of the role in this movie. He is chewing that scenery, he is eating it up, he is just going for it. And I love that. He's relishing in the fact that he gets to come back to this. And it says, well, it is me, I'm the killer, and I'm outside the gymnasium where your daughter is doing her show. And I'm like, but you can make it look like you're anywhere. Apparently, the AI is only messing with his face and nothing else around him, which I'm not sure that's how it works. Like I said earlier, it's a complaint that the AI in this is way too good to actually be AI, the way that they show it. Because it's like, you've seen AI now, you have like 6 fingers, your nose is pointed the wrong way, when you talk, your lips look all weird. It's an uncanny valley, right? This looks absolutely perfect, and it's bullshit, because that's not what AI looks like. Because they actually got the actors to come back and do it, instead of using actual AI, because then everybody would be fucking pissed for them using AI in the movies. Because no one's allowed to use AI, apparently. And if anyone uses AI, they criticize up the ass for using it. That was like a Lewis Black thing. You get criticized up the ass kind of thing. Anyway, so this prompts her to run to the school where, what the hell is the other guy? Aaron? The only thing I know is she keeps saying Aaron. Well, I was making my spaghetti earlier. I was dishing it up because it was left over. And McKenna Grace dies. Though I did kind of like this, where she's swinging, because they point later their foot gets cut, so she's swinging, and he just sort of, and eventually just, and the guts come spilling out, which reminded me, it draws back to the TV series, which I know nobody but me liked. Some people liked it, but where Brooke gets hit with the thing and it comes down. It's not like that, but because it was in a gymnasium, it reminds me of that. And they showed the floating body in the trailer with Sydney went in, and I go, oh, they just spoiled that McKenna Grace dies. People were like, is that McKenna Grace? I'm like, it's obviously McKenna Grace. She's the only other white girl in this movie. Right? And yeah, so what I do like is they bring everybody that was involved in the production back in the question. The teacher, who was a non-factor in this movie, other than being a big-ass red herring, he's here, he's like, I went home, I had dinner, and then later he's at a crime scene for no reason other than to point out he's a red herring. Ben showing up at a crime scene makes sense because his girlfriend was just attacked. But the teacher being there, and he disappears from the movie after that. And he's on the fucking poster! Isn't he? Maybe he's not. I thought he was. He's not. That's Smart Consuelos, which is also a non-factor in this movie. He has no plot relevance. But no. So the killer then shows up to the house. Because he's been sleeping in their attic. And for some reason, the footage they look at later, they can't find him coming into the house at all. And I'm like, well, how does that work? Did they mess with... I guess it was revealed later that they have some sort of Wi-Fi connection to the house, so maybe they jammed it so they don't see him getting in. But he's in the house. He attacks Mark the first time. This is not the one that's in the trailer. He attacks Mark, and the other two are running. It's the thing with the doing that, in the wall or whatever, and they're hiding in that room. And then we get. I know some people criticize this, but I love this entrance where they're running and he just gets boom hit by a news van, and it's Gale, Chad, and Mindy. And we're like, oh, this is too goofy. And it would be goofy if Mindy jumped out and went, oh God, he's dead as fuck. But they didn't. They're just like, whoa. And so he's dead. And I do like when they pull the mask up. They go, who the fuck is that? And apparently his name is Carl Briggs. Carl Gibbs was close. Played by Craig Dane. Hey, for what you were hired to do, you look menacing. Though it was way too obvious you were one of the killers. But I think that was the point. To point out, hey, look at this guy. Right? So now Gale is there, and everything is... I thought they were going to have an issue, because she wrote another book, like, with... And we don't have time to suss out issues between them, so they just hug. And Mark is alive, and I went, okay. But that wasn't the attack we saw, so there's got to be another attack at some point. And then there's another news guy. It's Mark Consuelos, Kelly Ripa's husband, who is also wants the story on this. It says Cindy recognized the killer was Carl Gibbs. No, she just recognized that he was at the coffee shop earlier. Right? And they find out he was in a mental institution. So they go to the mental institution, and we meet, I guess his name is Marco Davis, played by Ethan Embry. And I know I don't usually reveal shit till the end, but this was so fucking obvious. Even Stevie Wonder's going, man, he the killer. Because they released the character poster, and his character poster is him going... And I went, well, he's one of the killers. Unless they really want to point, if they really want him to be a big red herring, he's got to be one of them. Right? So it's like, okay. So, they visit Carl's room. They look in there, they see stuff. So, he was just a homeless guy. He committed some murders, but 20 years ago. And he was put in here. He went nuts. That sort of thing. And so then they show him a picture of Stu. And he goes, oh, that's John. He's like, John? Yeah, John Doe. He was found some years ago walking the street. He can't remember his name. He lashed out and attacked someone, so they sent him here. So there was some kind of damage to his brain where he couldn't remember who he was or where he was from. And I'm like, okay, that would be a pretty good story if it was actually Stu. But we all know that that's bullshit. So I went, he's got to be one of the killers now because he's making this shit up. You know? Yeah. And his room was in next to Carl's. So it's like, oh, they were doing this together, and Stu somehow got his memory back and tricked him into doing this as sort of a red herring, and now he can do it. And they do portray this as it's Stu because it's even though we know the others are going to show up, Dewey and Roman eventually are going to show up via AI, it is mostly Stu, which I like because Matt just to keep chewing that scenery, baby. Yeah. But, so, they decide they have to suss him out. So, Sydney agrees to finally be interviewed by Gale on Mark Consuelos' news channel. She's like, it's my interview, it's my exclusive. You're not interviewing her, though. Gale's still interviewing her, and it gets a little heated. It does get a little heated, but, you know, it's kind of needed to go between them. And so then Everybody else goes to the tavern. Tatum, Ben, Chloe, Lucas, and also Mindy, Chad and Mindy, because she gets acquainted with Chad and Mindy, and they go with her, which is smart for them to go with. Not that it helps out any, but yeah, this. I feel like this is the best part of the movie. This for you Carnage candy lovers. This should be your bread and butter in this part, because this was. Yeah, so they do the interview, and nothing happens at first before Stu calls Sydney and they say, "Hey, I'm at the tavern with your daughter," and it's like, what? So then after they were talking, they're like, they see the interview and they're like, okay, I should go home. He's like, I'll take you home. I'll take you home. And then Chad and Mindy, I do like when she starts her little thing. He's like, hey, what do we say about the rules? She's like, fine. I'll just point out that you two are the most suspects. You have the least connection. Like, she points to, what, Celeste O'Connor's name? What's her name? Hannah? No, that's the other one. Chloe and Lucas, she points out as the two big suspects. Lucas is the next door neighbor and Anna Camp's son. Remember that. And then Ben is also there. And so, like, when after Tatum, I don't know why, how could I forget that name? After Tatum and Ben go to leave to go to the car, a pizza burns. Chloe has to go take care of that, and then Lucas has to go to the bathroom, so he does that. And I do like how they acknowledge two of his major suspects just left, and then the door is locked from the outside, which is inconceivable for a business. I guess they do that, but how, right? And there's something I thought of earlier. I forgot to mention this during the house attack, or no, during the attack at the school. Okay. The Ghostface guy, the Ghostface killer, starts to attack Hannah. She's screaming bloody murder. Keep in mind, Tatum and her boyfriend are both in the green room or whatever it is, and then they don't come out till after the killing is done. And I went, ooh, I already know who the killers are, but ooh, wouldn't that be something if the killers were? It was a subversion. Where it's Cindy's daughter and her boyfriend are committing the killings. Ooh, that's too creative. They even have a conversation later about Stu, where it's like, what, Stu didn't die, and he come back. They go, it's the right way to go, but it would just be a mess. Which is the writer saying, we try to figure out a way where Stu could still be alive. But it just got messy. So we came up with this excuse. I do like the way it was going, but it's too bad it's bullshit unless it's not. Who's ever writing the next one? Try to make that not bullshit. Because I don't know. It would work. I think it would work. The way they were writing it, the way they had the Ethan Embry explain it, I think it would work. But I don't know if you can do that now that you did it in here and it was bullshit. You should have just made it a reality, but we'll get there. So then during all this, before we get to that stuff, Tatum goes they go to leave, and she sees his laptop with evidence that he was the one doing the AI. And she's like, no, I was just trying to see if it could actually be done. And she's Buka! And she's like, it's you. And she beats the shit out of him, knocks him unconscious, and then runs off. And then she's gone for this little chunk of the film, which is because I'm waiting for her to come running back into the place or something, or her find the door is locked. But it never happens. We don't go back to her until after this bloodbath. So, uh, first Chloe, she's attacked first, but it's actually the Lucas who's stabbed, and I went, wait. Or maybe, I don't know. We'll get to it. Because it doesn't make any sense, and they just sort of brush over it later, but we'll get to it. He gets stabbed, because, But then, Chad and Mindy try to get involved. Mindy gets stabbed, and Chad gets stabbed, and his throat is slashed a little bit. And I'm like, did they just kill them off? Their bodies are stacked on each other, and he chases down Chloe. And she gets the best kill of this movie. Now, I heard complaints that there's CGI. Was this CGI? Because I couldn't tell. What he does is you know how they had those big handles on the bar? Because I used to clean at the American Legion here in town and the VFW, and they had those big old beer things with the logos, the beer taps with the logos, and there's this big pointy one, and he just takes her after he stabs her, puts her head on it, and he goes through, and then the beer just, it makes the weight, your body makes it go down, and beer just comes squirting out of her mouth. I couldn't tell if that was CGI, but I thought it looked pretty cool. And that's the best kill in this movie. That was pretty cool. Then we got back to Tatum running around for no reason. So, this is the first time I'm going to have to defend this movie, because the people, logic, mostly against Cody Leeds, because he's the only other one that I watched. But he pointed out that Sydney is stuck looking at her phone instead of running to help Tatum. And I'm going to point out she can't move or the Wi-Fi signal will drop. Or her signal will drop. Because she tries to move in it, because she's watching the camera footage and trying to direct Tatum to do the right things. And so she leaves, she can no longer help Tatum do what needs to be done. So she has to stand there. And she doesn't leave until Tatum gets what's done. And now she needs to run after the help. And she does get there, because she can't get in the vehicle, Gail's vehicle, because it's locked. And my question was, why not just go to Gail and get the keys? But she just runs off. And this is the last we see of Gail for the entire rest of the movie. I don't know why. She's just gone. I have no defense for that. But Cody also pointed out that Chad and Mindy disappeared for the rest of the movie. They were left for dead. They're bleeding out in the tavern right now. Presumably an ambulance will find them. Okay? There's a very good reason why they're not in the last act of this movie. Okay? So yeah. So, you're like, well, first of all, Sydney tries to call her, which is fucking stupid, because the phone goes off and he's like, she gets to the coffee shop, is what it is. She gets to the coffee shop. And so, she's there, her phone goes off, and she mutes it. So obviously her mom's gonna call again, so put your phone on fucking vibrate or silent. And then answer the phone when she calls again. Then she texts, in the coffee shop, killer outside. And she goes, and Sydney replies with, gun in office. I'm like, that's nice. Where? Well, she does call again and say it's in the safe. And the combination is Tatum's birthday. It would be sometime in 2009. So, boop, boop, beep, boop, 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 boop. She does that. She gets the gun. And she's unprepared because she never told her about her past. But she's able to put a few shots that we see in the trailer. Shoot the thing. But he's wearing a bulletproof vest because of course he is. And, yeah, I'm saying he. Because I know who it is here. Okay? Pretty much. And so, you got to shoot him in the head. She goes to do that. He pops up. I also want to point out that at no point in this movie does Ghostface ever actually, like, he gets knocked down and then pops up right away afterwards. It's like, I know you're wearing bulletproof vest, but you're not wearing fucking armor, dude. There's just he falls off the steps and he looks like he's laying there. I'm assuming it was this guy, or maybe it was the other one, but and then that's earlier, Anyway, it gets away. And I forgot to point out an important thing before this. Mark, I forgot the scene before this. He gets the fuck stabbed out of him. And you think from the trailer, oh, he's dead. They just spoiled his death in the trailer. Turns out the only death they spoiled was McKenna Grace, because they get back to the house. They're like, he kidnaps Tatum, and he's like, oh, where are you? Oh, where the heart is. And it took me too long to realize that was home. So she goes home by herself. And this is where we get our other cameos, one of which surprised me. Like, it starts with Stu on all the screens. So they hacked into this thing. And then you see Roman, right? It's like, hey, sis. And then Dewey pops up. And I went, wouldn't it have made more sense if Dewey popped up when she was with Gail? Like, hey, Sid. And then Mrs. Loomis pops up. And I repeated Sydney from the second film. Mrs. Loomis? You killed my Billy. She was the one that was never announced. And out of all of them, I think she could have been the one that was, I don't know, the aunt from Roseanne. It was interesting to see her back for this. And yes, they look older because it's AI. They make them look old. They might still be alive, even though we know that 3 out of them are pretty much not alive. 2 of them were shot in the head. The other one was gutted. Groin to sternum. So we know. Yes, I'm not ruling out a Stu return because we got a reason. Right? And then it's like, well, where's my daughter? Well, we're going back to where this all started. A woman in the house on the phone, and a loved one sitting outside, tied up. And so they got Tatum tied up, and then one guy takes the mask off and reveals him to be the orderly from the psych ward. And she goes, you? Yeah, me. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of... Yeah, I called it. Why did you have him do such a creepy pose on the poster? I almost said coaster. On the poster. Yeah, it was obvious. And he's like, yeah, we had our own plan. Right, Stu? And they show that Mark is still alive. By the way, he's laying there. Bunch of stabs in him like Chad from the last one. Bleeding out. And he's fine. And during this whole speech that's going on, he's undoing Tatum's the duct tape that's around her legs. Okay? And then they review. She's like, right, Stu, and the other killer comes in, and there's some talking with Sydney, and then take the mask off to reveal Anna Camp is the killer. And she's like, I don't even know what the fuck her name is in this movie. I just know Anna Camp. What's her name? Jessica. And apparently, and I don't think this is the worst motivation. Everybody says this is the worst. I'm sorry. I still don't like the motivations of 4 or 5. I hate them. I don't like them more than I don't like this. She was obsessed with Sydney. They even point that out earlier that, oh, this isn't about someone being a fan of Stab, it's someone being a fan of Sydney. Something that Mindy says earlier. Apparently, Jessica was disappointed when Sydney disappeared from public life and wasn't around for the New York killings. Again, kind of throwing shade at her for not being involved with it. I'm assuming she was okay with this plot line. Maybe she does feel some kind of remorse for not being involved. But in her defense, and in defense of that movie, there wasn't room for her in there. If they tried to write her in, I don't think it would have worked. It would probably be a completely different movie, to be honest. I think it worked the way it was. Right? The more I watch 6, the more I like it. And the more I watch 5, the more I'm just like, it's okay. But, you know. But, Yeah. So she was so disappointed that she ended up in the mental institution where she met Marco, Ethan Embry. I'm just gonna call him Ethan Embry, and presumably also Carl. And I'm assuming that the room that Marco showed him earlier was her room and not Stu's room. It's way too nice to be Stu's room. There can be shit around it. But she's going to. She's doing this to make. Because she doesn't believe Sydney has the final girl energy anymore, which is a commentary on the freaking franchise. And she's going to turn Tatum into the final girl by killing Sydney. So, Sydney. So Mark is able to get Tatum free, and she headbutts Jessica, and Sydney shoots Marco in the fucking head. It made me cheer. I'm like, fuck yeah! I don't know why, but I just realized his name is Marco, which is so close to Mark, which is his character in Empire Records, and I just now thinking, I don't want Mark to get shot in the head. I love Mark. But in this context, it's fine. He's the killer. I do wish Ethan Embry got a little more scenery to shoot, but he's fine. There's a fight into the... a chase, I should say, into where they're repairing the house, which you saw from the trailer. And they fought, and then she tells Tatum to call the police and then get out of there, but she shows up and shoots Jessica. And when Jessica tries to get up and attack, they both shoot the fucking shit out of her in the head too. It's a bunch of fucking. She is Swiss cheese after this. Yeah, I'm like, okay, now it's time for the wrap up. Mark is taken to the hospital. Gail arrives with Chad and Mindy still alive, and to be fair, this was way less stabbings than Chad had in the last one, and he survived that in the last one, so you kind of figured he was. Though he was stabbed in the neck, and suspiciously there is no slice in the neck. I don't know. And there's been a whole thing throughout the movie where Mindy wants to try to be a reporter, but Gail keeps pushing her away, and now they're going to do it here, I guess. And Sydney and Gail have a moment where Sydney asks Gail for having her back and saying it. This is where she says, I should have been in New York. I should have been there for you. And I'm just like, again, there wasn't really room, but okay. Yeah. And then she tells Tatum about her namesake, where she came from, what the name came from. Saying all the stuff about Tatum, which is true. You know, the one thing she didn't say about Tatum, how smart she was. And you know why she doesn't say that she was smart? Because she tried to escape the killer going through a fucking cat door. That's why she wasn't smart. I was waiting for her to say she was strong, and she was funny, and she was cunning. And I was waiting for her, and she was smart, to go, no, she wasn't. She tried to escape the killer through a fucking cat door. She wasn't smart. But no. Yeah, and then Gail gives Mindy her blessing to do the report thing. And the credits roll. We get first we get like Mindy trying to do the news, and she messes up her own name. And I do like Chad and Mindy, I think, are pretty good in this movie. I laughed at a lot of stuff. This one, you messed up your own name? How do you mess up your own name? Shut up. They actually feel like a brother and sister, which works for me. If any characters could come back, I think maybe Sydney and Gail should give it a break. I think you should have Tatum in college in the next one. She's got no friends left because everybody died. All her new friends, that's a bit of a criticism for me. All the new friends they introduce, it's kind of like 4, where it's like, we're interested in these characters, but they don't matter. So everyone fucking dies. And that's Mechanic Grace gets so popular they reveal, actually, she was still alive. Her guts spilled out. How does that work? Right? Nobody could have survived this. Oh, and if you're wondering, wait a minute, wasn't Anna Camp the Lucas kid's mom? Yeah, she brings that up. She doesn't care. See, the whole thing about that was they bring up earlier that her husband was abusive. And they reveal in the climax that she actually killed her husband. And it was like, but Lucas was your son. She's like, he was too much like his father. And I'm like, really? That's your excuse? Because I thought that it was, so was it her there? Or what? Because I thought like, oh, but your son is dead. And she was going to turn to Marco and go, what? That wasn't part of the deal. He was a witness. And she did kill him. But no, I like him getting shot in the head too. I'm getting shot in the head. You get the customary credits with the faces and stuff. I do want to point out, I didn't get to it. It's somewhere, and it's when they start a curfew. And you know what song you gotta play? When I was jamming to this, with the red right hand. Yes, they play. As soon as it started, I'm like, yeah, because you gotta have that song in there. Gotta have it in there. Wasn't in 5. No, it wasn't 5. So when wasn't it in? 3? It wasn't in 3, right? Because it was in the credits. That's only what it was in. Yeah. But you gotta have the red right hand. It's red right hand, not ham. Hand. Yeah. So it is all to say that I actually enjoyed this movie. I think it was pretty good. People saying this is the worst one. I would still go for 3. I think 3 is still worse. There's way more issues with that movie than this one. Sure, there is a lot of issues, and I will agree with Cole that people just disappear after a while. And by the time they reveal that Jessica or Anna Camp is the killer, it's like, well, yeah, she's the only other one left that we haven't seen for like 45 minutes. So, yeah, it has to be her. Besides being Stu, which, you know, yeah. And that's what it was to somebody, the message that somebody sent, or in the comment is like, I will be in the theater to see Anna Camp as the killer and blah, blah, blah. And I also think it was also kind of obvious if you look at who's in this movie. It's got to be one of the new people. And they are pushing way too much on these new teenagers to be one of the killers. So, you know, it has to be like an adult or something. And I know a lot of people will say that, oh, the reveals were, like, disappointing. I actually liked the reveal of Carl, even though it was obvious. What the fuck is that? You know, and then I kind of liked Ethan Embry's reveal a little bit, even though he was also obvious, right? And I think going in, if there weren't the assholes trying to spoil it, it would be like, oh yeah, her. Which she was only one left. If it's not Stu, it has to be her. And I heard comments saying, oh, what if she's Stu's sister? And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I would assume that Stu's sister is older than him, because Vince, what's that his name? Kagawa's name, was like in his 30s, right? So you'd have to think she couldn't be Anna Camp, because Anna Camp is barely 40. She's my age, right? She's 3 years older than me. And I think I looked at that. I think she and Kyle Gallner are only like 4 years apart. He was born in 86. Yeah, he's 39. Yeah, they're 4 years apart. They're 4 years apart. So, him being her son wouldn't make sense. So, the fact that people say, oh, what if she's Stu's sister? Stu's sister trying to get revenge would be one thing. But I feel like for that to make sense, you'd also have to have Melissa Barrera involved. Because it was during those killings that her son was killed, and then her brother was also killed during the Sydney's killings, so they'd have both there. And that's probably never going to happen again. So, I think I mentioned, they tried to give Melissa Barrera back, but they told her in order to do it, she had to apologize for what she said. And she said, no, fuck you, I'm not doing that. good for her, I guess. But I don't think it's enough for people. I do want to point out, people are always standing on the hill, protesting for her. She never asked for that. She never even pushed back against the movie until about a couple months ago. But, or last month or whatever it was, where she finally kind of putting out things. But I don't think you should hate this movie. I actually like it. I said pretty good. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on Scream 7? Leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. This is a very long review. Thank you for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.